Hey y'all, welcome back to my, whoa, that was really aggressive. Welcome back to my channel. I'm back with Karina because now the last video we made, which YouTube game totally fell off after that. Solid, Lauren. All good, but we're back with a follow-up because the last video that I did was with Karina and she was a day out from her show, or 2 days out. It was a week of her show, and we actually talked about kind of what to expect, you know, really with contest prep. And we had a really good response on that because there's a lot of people who just honestly don't know what to expect and they just get into this. So if you haven't watched that video, go do it. But a lot of people asked for a follow-up actually, and we wanted to make this video anyway because we did a pretty cool experiment, I guess you could say, because I've wanted to do this for a while. It's not going to be for every client at all, but it was something that I wanted to try, and I am not going to be stage leading for any time soon. So I figured, hey Karina, I want to be my guinea pig. We actually talked about this when we were at IHOP the next day.
Yeah.
I said, hey, do you want to try this? And so yeah, so if you guys watched the video before, you know, Karina has a long dieting history and then some issues with, you know, binging after the shows, just some issues for a few years.
Yeah.
And you would say that even working with clients, it's really common afterwards, right? Like,
oh, definitely. Like, if it really just stems from how extreme the diet beforehand is. Obviously, my very first show, it was a very extreme diet, so the repercussions after were also very extreme. It was, like, probably 3 months straight of binging almost every single day, and then, like, the following years of still having these binging patterns every once in a while. But yeah, so this is also something very common. I wouldn't say I haven't seen anyone to the extent, thankfully, to the situation I was in. But yeah, binging after post-show is very normal. You are
and overeating.
Starving. Yeah, overeating.
Yeah, I would say that overeating is very common, and then it can kind of pathologize into binging, which is obviously very psychologically different. So we don't want to just kind of lump overeating into the binging category. But in general, overeating after a show and or binging is very common. And what happens a lot of times is you've been on this really restrictive diet. So not only is the diet restrictive, but what ended up happening is that you're very typically far from your set point. So your body is like, hey, we've been in this deficit for a while and now we're really far from the set point, so we're just really uncomfortable. So your body is screaming at you like, let me eat everything. And part of what happens after a show, I think anybody who's ever competed will attest to, is that everything comes up that week. All of your friends, all of your family, your significant others, everything that you've planned afterwards. Hey, I want to go to dinner with my boyfriend or girlfriend. Hey, my family wants to take me to dinner. Hey, my friends want to go get drinks. And that becomes really, really hard to say no to because now the goal is not right here. So what I said was, hey, Karina, and also you were traveling.
Right.
So you were going to be in LA for a few days with family at a festival. It's this whole thing, right? So I was like, hey, why don't we have these targets for a few meals earlier, and then have an untracked dinner every night the week after the show. So how did it go? So
actually it went...
Drum roll!
It went amazing.
This is me playing the drums. Like, this is like a bongo. Like, what am I doing?
So overall it went amazing. I would definitely say I had like a night and day experience compared to basically how my first show went. Whereas like after my first show, I didn't have very much post-show guidance, so in my mind I was like, oh, just gotta get back on the diet, or, you know, kind of, for most people I see who also tend to binge post-show is they have to like try to hit these targets perfectly. And for me this worked really well because food focus had come up as an issue, and the week post-show, knowing that every day I would have a chance to eat something I wanted, I didn't feel like, oh, I gotta get it all in on Sunday or all in on Monday and just like eat till I'm sick, because Tuesday through Friday and the rest of the week I have to get back on these targets.
And that sounds really crazy when you're not in it, but when you're in that, it literally makes so much sense. That's what it feels like. And like telling us that right now, like telling me like who I've been removed from a diet, like be like, oh, okay, I might eat more, you know, because I have a big appetite. But it's way different than like when you've just finished a show or a really harsh diet. Like you're like, oh, I only have one day. Watch me. Watch what I'll eat.
Let's go the next 12 hours just eating as much as possible. So knowing, like in my mind, knowing like, oh, I literally have Monday through Friday to, you know, have an untracked meal and not feel the pressure of hitting these targets on point. It was awesome because I didn't feel food focused, strangely, even just fresh out of a diet, and knowing that I had these untracked meals. I think part of that came from like I was also just so busy the week after that I didn't have much time. Yeah, but also just knowing that, like, oh, like, me and Chris, for example, had been dying to go to Mellow Mushroom. It's a pizza place, and we had scheduled, I'll have that on Thursday. So I wasn't dying to just eat junk every single day, knowing that I had the opportunity every evening to have something I had been craving or not something I would normally track and just enjoy it. And yeah, I think that also Lauren was very strategic with the targets she had placed before those, because I never went into those meals hungry.
Super
Therefore, I never felt the need to overeat, and I think that is where people get in a lot of trouble when they have untracked meals or something planned untracked, is that they over restrict. So you're going into this untracked meal overly hungry, and that's how it turns into a binge. Whereas I didn't feel like I had to kind of overdo it. I was able to not even finish like most of my meals because I just wanted that taste, and then I was fine. I didn't feel the need to just eat until I was completely bloated.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I wanted to. So the targets were there, and the targets were still more than what you had already been eating for the diet.
They're pretty high.
I didn't say like, hey, here's your targets before the meal, 5 carbs. It was like a substantial, like, hey, these are going to be 3 to 4 like legit meals.
Yeah.
And then, or 3 meals and like a snack or whatever it might be. And then you go into this dinner. And I think a lot of people, when they do have untracked stuff, they think, oh, I'll just fast all day.
Yeah.
That's not good. And then really when you're doing that too, you're again creating more food focus for no reason. Because now you're like, I haven't eaten all day. I'm so excited. I'm going to reward myself with this. And then it just becomes this whole crazy mental spiral. So I really wanted to try this on somebody, and I'm really glad Karina agreed to be the guinea pig. Yes! But I knew that it was going to work out, especially given the history. And I knew that, okay, hey, if we have a, like, let's just see if this helps. And I really think it's a valuable thing. And I've really changed that over the years, like how aggressively I add back in either calories and or untracked elements, because I used to be really afraid of that because I failed so many times after a show. I don't think I've ever really successfully like fucking nailed it, because you're in a position to where you want to have this flexibility, you want to have these things. And we did that for 2 weeks straight actually. And then afterwards we transitioned to a little bit more of a normal split. So like, what would you say? So we did that for 2 weeks. Said, hey, here are the targets. Beforehand, have your untracked dinner. So we did that for 2 weeks straight. And then what are we doing now?
So, and then we still wanted to incorporate those untracked meals. So now we're doing 5 days of a structured targets for me to hit all day, and then 2 days of the week I have untracked meals in which I can choose to place wherever I want. And it's actually come in handy because I have a very extended family and I've had multiple Thanksgivings. So I was like, okay, Monday's going to be this Thanksgiving meal. Thursday's going to be this untracked meal. So it's been really nice how not stressed I have been over it. But along with that, my normal targets are also high enough for me to not feel any food focus even going into those untracked meal days.
And the goal with having targets right afterwards, so instead of just saying, hey, just pull the reins off completely, is that I find that some people, again, will have this really big up and down effect. So like some days they'll eat a lot more, then they might feel a little bad, they'll eat kind of less the next days. So I still we need to fuel recovery right now, and we need to get calories back up to a healthy place, both metabolically, hormonally, and training wise. Like we want recovery to be good. So I want there to be, because Karina's somebody who would probably not push the calories, or like myself, unless on like a high, like a meal, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm going to eat a lot of this meal, but then the next day you might like not, right? And not to say that we're trying to like force feed people after they eat a lot, but being a lot more balanced. So now those untracked meals are less outrageous, and then the regular days are pretty standard. So I don't want to have completely no tracked elements at all right now, just because coming out of it we really do need to focus on recovery, so we want to get that up. But that's what we're transitioning to. And then the next goal will be to be like, hey, let's have 2 untracked days completely, and then now you're having some tracked elements, you're like, yes. Some untracked elements as far as days go, still focusing on quality habits, and then also some tracked days where we're still making sure that everything's on point. And the goal, I really cannot stress this enough, you guys, is when I say untracked meal or untracked day, and I say this to clients, I say this on podcasts, and I hope people really understand. I'm going to say it here again. This does not mean that when I say go have an untracked meal, you have to have 16 pizzas and 12 cupcakes. That is not the goal. Now, if you want to go have a pizza, great, go have pizza, but maybe you didn't finish the whole thing. That's fine too, if you're actually in tune with that, right? A lot of hunger is psychological, like a lot.
Definitely.
A lot of it,
especially after a show.
Yes. So if you're not tapped into kind of how you're actually feeling, you will end up you can pound food. Like it's like alarming how much people can eat when they're psychologically in that very restrictive, like restrictive and then overeating place. And it's something that I see over and over and over again. So like giving somebody some like, hey, like let's have this flexibility, but also saying like, the flexibility just means that we're not a slave to 3 certain numbers. It doesn't mean that we're completely throwing out the window what you're doing. People can when I tell people, hey, go have 2 or 3 untracked meals, they could be the same meals if you have nothing going on that you were going to eat. I just don't want you to track them and input them.
It's just the difference for most of the time is, at least for my untracked meals, it's just not putting the food down on a scale before it goes into my mouth. It's just literally like plate, mouth.
And it works perfect if you do have social events or you do have holiday meals or you are going out to dinner. But I don't want people to think that the only way that they can have an untracked thing is if they have to go have this huge blowout. That is absolutely not what I'm recommending at all. Still eat like a normal person. Still eat like a healthy, body conscious, like physique conscious person. But you're just not having these restraints. So it takes time. I mean, when I add this into some clients' programs, it's bam, easy peasy, like they get it right away. And then I have other clients who really, really struggle for a long time with this. But I'm not going to back off and say, oh, well, you've struggled with this your whole life. Let's just put a Band-Aid on it and go back to what we were doing. Because that obviously isn't working either.
Right.
So if you are listening to this and you want to try it out and you feel like you're failing or you feel like you're not getting it, don't worry. This is not easy for everybody. And this is a learning process and there is a learning curve associated with it.
Yeah, even my first week, I had, one whole week of untracked meals. We decided, okay, let's do this for a second week. And in my mind, consciously, I was like, okay, this week I have untracked meals, but I'm going to challenge myself. And now that I am not tied down to these 3 targets, consciously try to make better food choices. I think that people only associate making healthy food choices with having to hit targets.
Yes.
So, and I think that's also a very important skill to pick up too, because I don't think that we're all going to be tracking macros every single day for the rest of our lives. And I don't think that should be the condition for us to make healthy choices. I think we should want to, make healthy choices because we care about our bodies and performance and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it has been such a game changer since I've added it to clients' programs, and I've been talking about it a lot more. So if you guys have any questions, please let us know. This is something that we work on a lot with our clients. It is very, very important to both of us, all of the Team Loco Fit coaches. So if you're interested in coaching, if you need any help, please reach out. www.teamlocofit.com. I don't know why I said that. I think every hyperlink is www.
I immediately started thinking of the Chris D'Elia. I was like, www. Okay, sorry.
Okay, we are like total Chris D'Elia nerds. It's pretty bad. And anyways, if you haven't listened to this podcast, go do that.
Yeah.
But first, go to teamlocofit.com if you need any help. We have tons of articles on there, podcast links, as well as applications for coaching. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.